Some encounters don't begin with fear. They begin with something worse: normality. A quiet house where a voice calls your name from the dark. A message that knows too much about you. A school basement that feels like it remembers who you are. At first, it always looks random, coincidental, harmless, until the pattern starts forming, until you realize the same presence doesn't just appear in one place. It follows, it learns, it waits for you to stop questioning reality just long enough to step closer. And when you finally understand what's happening, it's already inside your distance. Not always as a monster, sometimes as a smile, sometimes as a stranger who already knows your name, and sometimes as something that was never human to begin with. I was house-sitting for my grandmother one suffocating weekend while she traveled to Florida with her church group. The house felt older in her absence, like something unseen had been waiting for silence to return. I slept in the guest bedroom beside hers, a room with two narrow twin beds where my brother and I used to laugh ourselves to sleep. That night, there was no laughter, only stillness. I chose the bed beside the window. Before lying down, I checked every lock in the house, front door, back door, even the small latch on the kitchen window. A quiet paranoia settled into my chest, though I couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the unnatural stillness, or maybe something deeper, something older, like a whisper from the unseen world of the jinn, watching, waiting. When I finally got into bed, sleep didn't come. The air felt heavy, almost ritualistic, as if the walls themselves remembered something forbidden. I scrolled through my phone for what felt like hours, distracting myself from the growing unease clawing at my thoughts. Then I heard it, a voice, soft, female, calling out from beyond the veil of the night. "Hello." It echoed faintly from outside. I froze. At first, I thought it was my imagination, some auditory trick born from isolation. But then it came again, identical, hollow, repeating with unnatural precision. "Hello." Not a knock, not a doorbell, just that voice, calling, again and again. Something about it didn't feel human. It felt summoned, like an ancient call drifting through darkness, something a lost soul, or worse, an ifrit might use to lure the living closer. I slowly got out of bed, each step deliberate, my breath shallow. The house creaked beneath me as I moved toward the front door, drawn by that voice, as if under some quiet curse. "Hello." Closer now, right outside. The night beyond the walls felt alive, watching me, waiting for me to answer. "Hello." It came again, slow, rhythmic, almost ritualistic. Not like someone asking for help, but like something performing a call, a summoning. My grandmother's front door had no peephole, which suddenly felt like a terrible design flaw. But the dining room windows gave a clear view of the front porch. I moved toward them, each step heavier than the last, like something unseen was resisting me or guiding me. The air grew colder. I reached the window and carefully parted the plastic blinds, trying not to make a sound. My heart pounded violently,
echoing in my ears like distant war drums. I leaned forward just enough to see, and she was already looking at me. Standing on the porch, perfectly still, waiting. It was an older woman, perhaps late 50s, early 60s, but there was nothing gentle or human about her presence. Her face was stretched into a grotesque smile, too wide, too deliberate. Her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that felt ancient, predatory, like she had known exactly where I would stand, like she had been waiting for this moment. "Hello," she said it again, her lips barely moving this time, yet the voice sounded louder, closer, like it wasn't traveling through air anymore, but directly into my mind. A cold realization crept into me. This wasn't coincidence. This was intent. Something about her presence felt wrong on a deeper level, like encountering a being not bound by the natural order. In whispered Arabic folklore, there are tales of jinn who mimic human forms, who smile, who speak, who call your name, just to draw you closer before revealing their true nature. And in that moment, I knew this woman did not belong here. I quickly stepped away from the window, my chest tightening as if invisible hands were pressing against it. My thoughts raced. Could she be one of my grandmother's friends? But no one comes at midnight like this. No one just stands there repeating a single word over and over, like some cursed incantation. And why wasn't she knocking? Why wasn't she leaving? Why was she just waiting? A deep primal fear settled into my bones. This wasn't a visitor. This was something that had come for me. I backed away slowly and returned to the guest bedroom, shutting the door firmly behind me. The silence inside the room felt unnatural, like the calm inside a sealed tomb. And then, nothing. No voice, no movement, just silence, as if whatever stood outside knew I had retreated and was now planning its next move.
The silence didn't last. At first, it was subtle, like the house itself holding its breath. Then, bang! A violent udar against the window shattered the stillness. Not a knock, tap, a full, deliberate strike. My entire body reacted instantly, heart slamming, chest tightening, every nerve igniting in pure fight or flight terror. The sound echoed unnaturally, as if it wasn't just hitting the glass, but reverberating through something deeper, something unseen. Then it came again, bang, and then, hello. That same voice, closer now, too close. It didn't feel like it was outside anymore. It felt like it was pressing against the barrier between two worlds, ours and something far older. In ancient whispers, they speak of jinn who cannot cross thresholds unless invited, but can linger, knock, call, waiting for the moment the barrier weakens. And in that moment, I moved. Adrenaline surged through me as I rushed toward the window. I don't know what possessed me, fear, anger, or something darker, but I grabbed the blinds and yanked them upward, and there she was, right there, face to face with me, only a thin sheet of glass between us. Her smile had grown wider, unnaturally stretched, as if her face wasn't meant to hold it. Her eyes, they weren't right. They looked hollow yet aware, like something ancient was peering through them, watching me, studying me, waiting. Hello. But this time, her lips barely moved. The voice didn't match her. It echoed, layered, as if multiple unseen entities whispered the same word through her mouth. A chorus from something unseen, like the breath of an ifrit trapped behind fragile glass.
A scream tore out of my throat before I could stop it. "I'm calling the cops!" The words felt weak the moment they left my mouth, because deep down, I knew this wasn't something the police could handle. I slammed the blinds shut and stumbled backward, my hands shaking uncontrollably. My mind was unraveling, trying to make sense of something that refused to be understood. I ran out of the room, scanning the house wildly, every shadow now feeling alive, watching, shifting, waiting. Then I bolted upstairs, locking myself inside the upper guest bedroom like a prisoner, hiding from something far worse than death. I didn't call the police. I don't know why. Maybe some instinct, some ancient fear buried deep in human nature told me this wasn't a threat you confront. This was something you survive. I crawled into the bed, pulling the covers over myself like they could protect me from whatever stood beyond those walls. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell. Time felt distorted, stretched thin like reality itself was weakening. But the worst part? There were no more sounds, no more banging, no more voice. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels deliberate, like something has stopped trying to get in because it no longer needs to.
I don't remember falling asleep. If I did, it wasn't real sleep. It was the kind that comes when your body shuts down, not your mind. A forced surrender to exhaustion while fear lingers, awake, watching. Hours later, I finally moved. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that feels staged, like something has just left or is waiting just out of sight. Slowly, I made my way downstairs. Every step creaked louder than it should have, echoing through the empty halls like a warning. My eyes darted from shadow to shadow, half expecting to see her standing there, inside the house this time. But she wasn't. I checked the front window. Nothing. The porch was empty. The night outside looked normal again, calm, still, innocent, as if nothing had ever been there. As if the entity that called to me had simply dissolved back into whatever unseen realm it came from, or worse, as if it had never left at all. The next morning, I called my grandmother. The moment I told her what happened, her reaction wasn't confusion, it was terror. Pure, unmistakable terror. She began shouting into the phone, her voice shaking in a way I had never heard before. She told me that just a few days earlier, at a grocery store, a woman had been watching her, smiling relentlessly, following her from aisle to aisle without saying a word, not speaking, not blinking, just smiling. The description matched too closely, too perfectly. A woman, slightly younger than her, with a smile that didn't belong to any normal human face. I tried to calm her down, telling her it might be coincidence, that maybe we were connecting things that didn't belong together. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it, because I remembered the way that thing looked at me through the window, like it already knew me, like it had been watching long before that night. My grandmother is 75. Her memory isn't perfect. Sometimes she forgets things, mixes details, loses track of time. But fear like that? You don't fake that. Not at her age, not like that. After we hung up, I sat there in silence, trying to convince myself it was over, that whatever had happened had ended. But deep down, a thought refused to leave me. In ancient Arabic lore, there are entities among the jinn that don't simply haunt places.
They attach themselves to people. They watch, they follow, they wait, and sometimes they don't knock forever. Sometimes they find another way in. I still think about that night, about the voice, about the smile, and about the way it said hello, like it wasn't greeting me, but recognizing me.
The darkest chapter of fear is about to begin. Before that, are you alone or with someone? Share your feelings in the comments. New viewers, follow now.
My name is Nicholas, a freshman at Syracuse University, a place that, despite its academic reputation, carries a quiet undercurrent of danger after dark. The streets around campus feel different at night, like something unseen drifts just beyond the edges of streetlights. I had just gone through a breakup with my first girlfriend, the kind that leaves a hollow space inside you, making you reach for distractions, for connection, for anything that makes the silence less suffocating. That's how I ended up back on dating apps. I was scrolling through Hinge one night when I came across her, Stephanie. Blonde, soft smile, familiar interests, books, movies, the same dry sense of humor. It all felt too aligned, too perfect, like someone had carefully constructed a reflection of what I wanted to see. But I ignored that feeling. We started talking, and it flowed instantly. No awkward pauses, no forced conversations. It was like we had known each other for years. Every message pulled me in deeper, wrapping around my thoughts like a quiet whisper. There was something almost hypnotic about the way she spoke, subtle, controlled, deliberate. Looking back, I should have noticed it sooner. There were gaps, small inconsistencies, moments where her replies felt off, like they weren't coming from the person I imagined on the other side. But loneliness has a way of blinding you, of making you ignore the things that don't make sense. After a day or two, I suggested we meet. A movie date. Normal, simple. She agreed immediately, too quickly. She told me to wait at a specific corner near campus around 9 p.m., said she'd pick me up herself. That detail alone should have raised a red flag, but it didn't. Not yet. That night, I stood alone on that quiet street, the cold air pressing against my skin. The houses around me were dark, windows empty like hollow eyes watching from a distance. She texted me, asked me to share my location. Without thinking, I did. A decision I would regret almost instantly. Minutes passed. Then I saw headlights turning onto the street. A car slowly approached and stopped directly in front of me. The driver's window rolled down, and the moment I looked inside, I knew something was wrong. It wasn't Stephanie. It was an older man, his face partially shadowed, but his eyes were fixed on me in a way that made my stomach drop instantly. Not curious, not confused, expectant, like he had been waiting, like he already knew who I was. And then he spoke, asking why I was standing there alone. The night around me suddenly felt heavier, quieter, like the world itself was pulling back, leaving just me and whatever this was on that empty street. Somewhere deep in my mind, a thought surfaced, not fully formed, but enough to make my pulse spike. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. This felt orchestrated, like something unseen had guided me here, step by step. In whispers of old desert lore, there are tales of jinn who don't appear as monsters, but as opportunities, as connections, as people you trust, until it's too late. And standing there, staring into that man's eyes, I felt it. That same quiet dread, like I had already crossed a line I didn't even know existed.
The man tilted his head slightly, studying me with an unsettling calm. "What are you doing out here alone?" he asked. His voice was steady, too steady. Not the casual curiosity of a stranger, but something measured, rehearsed, like he already knew the answer and just wanted to hear me say it. I hesitated, then replied, "I'm waiting for someone." A pause. Then, "Stephanie?" The name hit me like a cold blade. My chest tightened instantly. "How do you know that?" I asked, my voice sharper now. A faint smile crept onto his face. "I'm her father," he said. "She asked me to pick you up. Hop in, I'll take her to her." Everything inside me froze. Something about the way he said it didn't sit right. Not just the words, but the tone. It lacked warmth, lacked urgency. It felt hollow, like a line being delivered, not a truth being spoken. I took a step closer, not toward the car, but just enough to see him better. And that's when it hit me. He didn't look right. Not in an obvious way, but in the subtle details. His age didn't match. His expression didn't shift naturally. His eyes, they stayed locked on me without blinking long enough to feel unnatural, like he was trying to imitate something human and not quite getting it right. In forgotten Arabic texts, there are warnings about certain jinn, entities that don't reveal themselves immediately. They wear faces, mimic voices, build trust, and when they speak, they often know things they shouldn't. Names, locations, details never given. A quiet dread crept up my spine. "Why didn't you tell me you'd be picking me up?" I asked, keeping my voice firm. His smile twitched just slightly. "I don't trust random guys meeting my daughter. I wanted to see you first." It sounded reasonable, but it didn't feel real. Every instinct in my body screamed the same thing. "Do not get in that car." I didn't argue. I didn't question further. I just turned around and started walking in the opposite direction. Behind me, his voice rose suddenly. "Hey! Hey!" There was something different in it now. Not calm, not controlled, surprised, almost irritated, like something had gone off script. I kept walking, faster. The sound of his engine started again. For a split second, my heart jumped. I thought he might turn the car around and follow me. But instead, he drove straight, past me, and turned left at the end of the street. Gone, just like that. I slowed down slightly, exhaling a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. But the feeling didn't leave. That weight in the air, that sense of being watched. Because deep down, I knew something wasn't over. I continued walking toward campus, trying to shake the unease. But just as I reached the corner, I saw it. The same car, parked, engine off, lights off, sitting silently on the side of the road like a predator waiting in the dark. And as I passed it, I could feel it, that gaze again, watching me. Even without seeing him, I knew he was still there. And whatever this was, it wasn't letting me go. My pulse spiked the moment I saw the car again. Parked, silent, waiting. Every instinct told me to run, but I forced myself to stay calm, to keep walking like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't just realized I was being watched. Hunted. As I passed the car, I tried to glance inside without making it obvious. Nothing. The windows were too dark.
tinted like a barrier between me and whatever sat inside. But I could feel it, that same presence, heavy, focused, aware. I kept walking, faster now. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from Stephanie. "Why didn't you get in the car with my dad?" I stopped breathing for a second. My fingers tightened around the phone as a cold wave washed over me. That message confirmed everything. This wasn't random. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was coordinated. Or worse, controlled. I didn't reply. I couldn't, because suddenly the situation felt much darker than just a fake profile or a creepy man. It felt like something was guiding every move, like I was being studied in real time. In certain forbidden Arabic whispers, there are entities among the jinn known for deception, beings that weave illusions, manipulate perception, and lead their targets step by step into isolation before revealing their true intent. And right now, I felt like I was inside one of those traps. I kept moving, resisting the urge to break into a full sprint. My eyes flicked behind me every few seconds, expecting the par to start, to follow. Then I reached an intersection. Without hesitation, I turned right and ran full speed. My footsteps pounded against the pavement, echoing through the empty street. Cold air burned my lungs as adrenaline took over completely. I didn't look back, not at first. When I finally did, the car wasn't there. Relief hit me, but only for a moment, because as I slowed near campus, something else replaced it. A sound. Soft, subtle footsteps behind me. I froze. At first, I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just paranoia, just the aftershock of fear messing with my head. Then, a sharp, unmistakable sound cut through the silence. The crunch of broken glass beneath a shoe. Not mine, someone else's. Close. Too close. My heart started racing again as I slowly moved forward, then quickly ducked behind a parked van. I held my breath, straining to listen. The footsteps continued, measured, closing in. I peeked carefully through the gap between two cars and saw him. The same man, walking toward where I had just been. His movements were different now. Less controlled, more urgent, like the mask he wore earlier was slipping. He turned his head slightly, scanning the area, searching. Then he spoke. His voice carried through the night, distorted by distance and something else, something unnatural. "Come back, I'll take you to her." But it didn't sound like an offer anymore. It sounded like a command. Or a lure. In that moment, something inside me snapped into clarity. This wasn't just a man. This was something pretending to be one. Something that had failed once and now was trying again. I didn't wait. I bolted. Every ounce of energy I had went into running. My legs burned, my chest ached, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Because I knew if that thing caught up to me, there would be no second chance.
I didn't stop running until I reached my dorm. By the time I got inside, my lungs were burning and my legs felt like they might give out beneath me. I slammed the door behind me and leaned against it, listening, half expecting to hear footsteps echoing down the hallway. Or worse, a knock. But there was nothing. Just silence. My roommate wasn't there. The room felt empty. Too empty. Like the safety I thought I'd reached was just an illusion. I locked the door anyway,
then checked it again and again. Only after that did I finally collapse onto my bed, staring up at the ceiling, trying to slow my breathing. My hands were still shaking. My mind kept replaying everything. The car, the man, the voice, the footsteps. None of it felt real, but it was, because my phone buzzed again. I froze. Slowly, I reached for it. Another message. From the same number, the same contact. The thing pretending to be Stephanie. I opened it, and the moment I read it, my blood ran cold. "You little piece of shit. You're lucky you got away. I would have strangled your ugly ass." The words didn't feel human. They felt exposed, like whatever had been pretending before had finally dropped the mask. The politeness, the calm tone, it was all gone. What remained was something raw, violent, and deeply hateful. Something that had lost control. My fear turned into something else then. Anger, maybe, or survival instinct. I typed back quickly. "Thanks for the threat. It's going straight to the police." For a moment, I just stared at the screen, waiting, expecting another reply, but none came. Instead, I blocked the number immediately. Still, that didn't bring relief, because deep down I knew blocking a number doesn't stop something that already knows where you are. I checked my phone settings, and that's when it hit me. I was still sharing my location. My stomach dropped. I turned it off instantly, but the damage was already done. That thing, whoever or whatever it was, had tracked me all the way back to campus. It knew my movements, my patterns, where I felt safe. In ancient Arabic lore, there are darker kinds of jinn, not the kind that haunt places, but the kind that attach themselves to individuals. They observe, they learn, they adapt, and once they choose you, they don't always let go. I still have the messages saved, screenshots, proof. I tell myself I'll go to the police eventually, but a part of me hesitates, because how do you explain something like this? A fake identity, a man who knew too much, a presence that felt calculated, not random, not human. And sometimes, late at night, when my phone lights up unexpectedly, even now, my heart skips a beat, because a thought always creeps in. What if it wasn't just a person behind that account? What if something else was using it, learning how to reach me? And what if, next time, it doesn't make a mistake?
The darkest chapter of fear is about to begin. Before that, are you alone or with someone? Share your feelings in the comments. New viewers, follow now. I was 18 when I took a part-time job as a janitor at my high school during the summer. The building felt different when it was empty, like it shed its normal identity once the students were gone. The laughter, the noise, all of it replaced by a hollow silence that lingered too long in the hallways. My shifts varied. Some days I worked under the harsh light of morning. Other nights, deep into midnight, when the school no longer felt like a place for the living. That was when it felt watched. Most nights I was left alone to finish up after the older janitors had gone home. One of them, Tom, always told me the same thing before leaving.
Text me if you need anything. But I never did. Because honestly, I liked being alone there. Or at least, I thought I did. I'd do just enough work to make it look like I was busy, then spend the rest of the time on my phone, or even leave early while still getting paid. It felt like I was getting away with something. Looking back, maybe I was. That night, Tom had to leave earlier than usual, which meant I'd be locking up the entire building by myself. Before he left, he gave me one task: move the extra chairs from the gymnasium down to the basement storage. Simple enough, at least that's what I thought. I stacked a few chairs and carried them down the stairwell leading to the basement. The moment I opened the door, a wave of cold, stale air hit me. The kind that doesn't just feel old, it feels untouched, like something beneath the building had been sealed away for years. The lights down there were dim and flickering, barely illuminating the space. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the concrete floor, shifting slightly even when nothing moved. The basement didn't feel like part of a school. It felt like something else entirely, like a place forgotten on purpose. As I stepped inside, I noticed rows of objects covered with large paint cloths, shapes hidden beneath them. Tall, human-like forms standing in silence. Mannequins. At least, that's what I told myself. Art mannequins, probably stored there from old classes, covered up like they were being protected or hidden. In certain Arabic folklore, there are whispers of jinn that inhabit lifeless forms, objects shaped like humans. They remain still, silent, until no one is watching. And in places like this, they wait. I shook the thought off and placed the chairs where they belonged. Everything seemed normal, still, quiet. Too quiet. I turned to head back upstairs for another stack, but something about the room made me hesitate. Like unseen eyes were fixed on my back, watching, measuring, waiting for me to turn around. And for a brief second, I almost felt like I shouldn't.
I forced myself to ignore the feeling. It was just a basement, just mannequins, just shadows playing tricks on my mind, nothing more. I went back upstairs, grabbed another stack of chairs, and carried them down again. My footsteps echoed louder this time, as if the silence below had deepened, thickened, like something had settled into the space while I was gone. When I stepped back into the storage room, I stopped. Something had changed. One of the mannequins, one of the ones near the front, was no longer covered. The cloth that had been draped over it before was gone. My grip tightened on the chairs. I knew for a fact it had been covered minutes ago. I had seen it, not just in passing. I remembered it clearly because it stood slightly tilted compared to the others. Now, it stood fully exposed, facing a different direction, facing me. A cold wave crawled up my spine. I slowly set the chairs down, my eyes locked onto that figure. Didn't move. Of course it didn't. It was just a mannequin. Something about the way it stood didn't feel lifeless anymore. It felt aware. In the dim light, its shape looked wrong, too human, too still. The shadows clung to its form unnaturally, as if trying to conceal something that didn't belong in this world. My hands trembled slightly as I pulled out my phone and texted Tom. I think someone's in the basement.
The message felt ridiculous the moment I sent it, but the feeling didn't go away. A minute passed, then another. Tom replied, "What do you mean?" I swallowed hard and typed back, "One of the covered mannequins. The cloth is gone." There was a pause, longer this time, too long. Then, finally, "No one else should be there." That didn't help, not at all, because as I lowered my phone, something else caught my attention. In the far corner of the room, just outside the reach of the dim overhead light, there was a cloth, crumpled, draped over something moving. Barely, but enough. My breath caught in my throat. There was no doubt now. Something was under that cloth, and it wasn't a mannequin. In ancient Arabic whispers, there are tales of entities that hide beneath coverings, jinn that conceal themselves within fabric, shadows, abandoned places, waiting for the moment someone comes close enough to see them, or worse, to be seen by them. Every instinct told me to run, but I didn't. Not yet. Something, fear, curiosity, or something darker held me in place. I began to move toward it, slowly, quietly, each step heavier than the last. The air felt thicker, harder to breathe. The cloth shifted again, just slightly, as if whatever was beneath it knew I was coming and was waiting for me to get closer.
I was only a few feet away now. The cloth didn't move much, just a faint, almost breathing-like shift. But in that silence, even the smallest motion felt enormous, like the entire basement was watching that one spot with me. My throat felt dry. I tried to convince myself it was just fabric reacting to air, old building, drafts, anything logical. But logic was leaving me fast. I crouched slightly, leaning forward. The cloth bulged again. This time, unmistakably. Something underneath it shifted its weight. Not wind, not settling dust. Something alive. My phone buzzed in my hand again. I almost dropped it. Another message from Tom. "Call the cops." That was it. No explanation, no hesitation, just those words. My heart slammed hard against my ribs. I looked at the cloth again. It was completely still now. Too still, like whatever was under it had paused, listening, waiting. A thought crossed my mind that made my skin go cold. What if it knew I was here? In certain old Arabic warnings about the jinn, there is mention of something terrifying. They do not always reveal themselves immediately. Sometimes they wait until fear matures, until doubt settles fully into the human mind, and only then they move. I stepped back one step, then another. I should have run. I know that now, but I didn't. Instead, I did something stupid. I whispered, "Who's there?" The moment the words left my mouth, the cloth moved. Not slightly, not subtly. It shifted sharply, as if something inside had turned toward me, facing me, fully aware. My entire body locked up, and then I saw it. Not clearly at first, just a shape beneath the fabric, a human outline, wrong in proportion, too still in some places, too tense in others, like it was holding itself together deliberately. Then a small indentation appeared at the top of the cloth, like something pressing upward from inside. Slow, deliberate, testing the barrier. I stepped back instantly.
My breath came out uneven. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. But in that flicker, I swore I saw it move closer. Not walking, not crawling, just closer. And for the first time in my life, I understood something deeply irrational, something older than fear itself. Whatever was under that cloth wasn't hiding from me. It was waiting for the right moment to stop hiding. My phone rang suddenly. Tom. I answered immediately, voice shaking. There's someone under a cloth in the basement. A pause, then his voice low and urgent. Don't go near it. But it was too late, because the cloth shifted again, and this time it lifted slightly from the ground, as if something beneath it had started to stand.
I didn't wait to see more. The second that cloth lifted even a few inches off the ground, something inside my mind snapped into pure survival. I ran, hard, back toward the stairs. My footsteps slapped against the concrete as the basement behind me seemed to change, like the air itself was tightening, closing in. Every shadow felt longer, every corner felt closer than before. I reached the basement door and slammed my hand against it, locked it, twice. My chest burned as I turned back toward the room, half expecting it to see it standing right behind me. But there was nothing, just the basement, still, quiet, wrong. I texted Tom again, hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Something is in the basement. It moved. His reply came almost instantly. Call the police! This time I didn't argue. I just stood there, staring at the door, trying to convince myself I had enough distance between me and whatever that thing was. Then, a sound. Above me. At first, it was faint, a dull metallic scrape. I froze. Slowly, I tilted my head upward. The ceiling vents, long, wide air ducts running across the basement roof. Another sound came, this time louder, a dragging noise, something heavy, moving inside the vents. My blood turned cold, and then I saw it. A dent, pushing downward from inside the metal, slowly forming, like something was crawling through the ventilation system directly above me. I stepped back without thinking. Another dent appeared, then another, closer, moving, following. And then it stopped, right above me, completely still. No sound, no movement, just the vent, directly over my head. Couldn't breathe. I knew, without knowing how I knew, that whatever was under the cloth wasn't the only thing here anymore. It had moved, or maybe it had never been alone. The vent above me suddenly vibrated. A sharp metallic bang echoed through the basement. Once, then again, harder, like something inside was trying to break through, trying to get down. I backed away slowly, eyes locked upward, my body refusing to turn my back on it. Another bang, then a scrape, then silence again. Absolute silence. And in that silence, I understood something terrifying. The thing in the cloth wasn't the only one that had been waiting in this building, and I was standing in the middle of a place that had more than one hiding spot, more than one watcher. My phone was in my hand, but I didn't even know who to call anymore, because it didn't feel like help was coming fast enough, and I was still inside.
We'll stop here for now, yet the night has many secrets left to tell. For more heart-pounding horror stories, subscribe and stay with us if you dare to face the darkness.